Let's see if everyone can get on now.
Topeka, how are you?
Well, it's so good to see you. You look great.
Likewise, so do you. Amazing. I've been following your fabulous life and just
Oh,
so grateful to know you. And, Sally did an amazing job when she connected us. And,
she sure did.
my sister. And, I'm just so proud of you and just the work that you're doing. And I'm just
Oh,
so honored to be here with you today.
oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. You in Baltimore or you in New York? Where,
I'm in New York. I'm in Brooklyn.
okay, good. So we'll have to get together soon.
Yeah, we got to get together soon.
Yeah, so I'm going to reintroduce you because
Okay.
we're cutting into our time. So Nykidra, right?
No, Nykidra. So everyone says Nike, then say Dra. Nykidra.
Oh, Nykidra.
Yes.
That's why I've always called you Nike. So that's why
Yeah. Yeah.
But Nykidra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nykidra Robinson is the founder of Black Girls Vote, which is a national nonpartisan organization that targets all age groups and communities of Black girls to engage, educate, and empower them to use the political process to improve the quality of life for themselves, their families, and collective community. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. So why did you launch Black Girls Vote?
Tamika, it's so interesting. I was telling someone today, I said, had someone told me, 10 years ago that I would be, leading a non-profit organization that I had started, I would have told them bull crap. Like, nah, I'm going to be living in New York, living this fabulous life as a marketer, an ad executive, whatever that may be, just living this life in New York City. But, life happened, right? And so many times life happens to us. And when life happens, we respond. And so I responded to a few things that happened to me in my life. And the first being when Freddie Gray got murdered in the city of Baltimore. That's my neighborhood. 21216, that's my zip code. And so when it happened, we saw a lot of people across the country, watching it from, across the country. And my parents, my family members were calling me and said, you need to come to the suburbs where it's safe. And I said, no, I'm fine. But like many others, the next day, I was out in the community saying, what can we do? We're cleaning up, let me play my part. And then that happened. And that same year, I lost my good government job, as I would say, because I was working for the state government. So I got let go of my political appointee because Anthony Brown had lost the election. So when you're a political appointee,
okay,
that happens. And then last but not least, the murder happens directly across the street from me in Hanlon Park. And when the detectives knocked on my door, they thought it was a drug transaction that had gone bad. And so when I looked at all three of those incidents, I said, it's a matter of policy, right? And so everything is tied to policy one way, shape, or another. And so when I looked at 2008 and 2012, how Black women had delivered the presidency, I said, what better time to start Black Girls Vote? So we launched 5 years ago on the birthday of Shirley Chisholm, and I cannot believe it will be 5 years next month that we launched Black Girls Vote.
Wow, 5 years.
5 years, and it's so crazy. It's so crazy. 5 years ago.
That's incredible. That's, this year's my 5th year home. So that's great. It's great for everything.
Yeah, so do you feel like time went by fast or went slow? How do you feel?
Fast.
Yeah.
Super duper fast. I had no idea. I looked up and I saw 5/5 again today. Actually my date, 5/5/15. Today when I was doing the poll workers training, I was telling them. So I decided this year that I wasn't only going to vote, but I was also going to work the polls.
Oh, you're a poll worker.
I am, because I passed the test. So I decided I was going to do that. Why I did it was because when I voted, I don't know which election it was, and it might have been, I don't know which one it was, but whatever it was, I was at my polling site and someone they walked up and they came to vote, and they were told, this is not your polling site. And they didn't give them any additional information. And the person just looked very confused. I went on my app to, the Board of Elections, and it was actually, I located their site for them and told them where to go, and that was that. And I was like, wow, like how many people were probably pushed away, turned away and was not given the opportunity to understand where they needed to be voting from. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, wow, maybe I need to do this. And then Carlene and Kate, they had put it in a newsletter that we put out, about working the polls. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should do that this time. So I sat in this 4-hour training this morning.
Yeah.
And it was long, and it was long.
It can be boring to some people. It can be boring, yeah.
Yeah, but I learned so much. Because because we just come in and vote a lot of times. But like I was saying earlier, that I didn't even know there was a such thing as a poll watcher,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Yeah.
what they do and their role. And I was like, oh my God, so like they're not your friends. The poll
No.
watcher, that is not your friend.
Oh no, they're not. Like it's so intense, right? It's so elections are so intense. You have to realize that every single vote, you know, people are watching the polls. They're calling in from different campaigns. What do the numbers look like? How are things going? Like all those things are happening as you're trying to process and get voters. You know, there are people outside of the polls who are conducting surveys, right? Who did you vote for? How did you feel? So that they can get that data back to those behind the scenes who are working these campaigns. So it's so important. And, you know, people who are watching every single thing that you do, particularly in those battleground states, right? And so, you know, you're in New York, but, you know, we're doing work, as the young lady just mentioned, in Philadelphia as well as Detroit. And so it's very, very, very intense in those states, because in the next 18 days, depending on who goes to the polls and who do not go to the polls, and, you know, of course, with early voting as well, it could change the presidency of the United States. And you know, and I know there's a billions and trillions of dollars at stake in this election. And what people are going to do, what they want to do is protect their interests. And so some of that is wealth. A lot of it is wealth. So no, so there's a lot. When people don't understand the dynamics that are behind poll workers and working the polls. So I'm glad you're going to be a poll worker. I've never done it, so I'm not going to sit here and say I have. So tell me about it.
I will, because
Tell me all about it. Tweet.
you're in at 5 a.m. and then you're there till 9. Well, the polls close at 9, but whoever's in the line gets the vote. And if you don't get all your paperwork and things in, then you're there. They said sometimes people are there to midnight. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting day, to say the least. But I'm excited to do it and give in that way.
Look, that's why people are always like, if you're in line, don't get out of line. Don't, because if you're in
Yeah,
line by 8 p.m., they must let you vote. And so people are like, whatever you're doing, don't get out of line. So you'll see that on election night and all that stuff. You know, there are campaigns that are taking food to people at the polls. So
this is true. So wait, when you talked about the work that you're doing in Philly, you had put up a little while ago about the Mail the Box initiative.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and one of the goals through the recent mobilization campaign in Baltimore specifically, you know, and what has been happening just during the pandemic? What are some of your thoughts around why the Mail the Box initiative?
Yeah, so look, last year, you know, I'm sure when you were putting together your strategic plan with LOHM, and as we were putting together our strategic plan with Black Girls Vote, neither of us predicted that we'd be living in the middle of a global pandemic. So, like many organizations, we had to pivot. And we, as in Black Girls Vote, we participated in a campaign or an initiative called Party at the Polls in 2018. And that's something where, you know, polling sites will have these celebratory events, because study and research shows that in those jurisdictions or those communities where there are parties, you see a higher voter turnout rate. And for us, we knew that we couldn't vote in person. So I, you know, talked to my partner in crime, as I call him, Sam Novi, and said, hey, what about Party at the Mailbox? And he was like, that sounds cool. Okay, let's do it. So we were able to get some seed funding, and we sent these customized boxes to voters in Baltimore. But the boxes were themed, Baltimore themed boxes, and, you know, things that resonate with Baltimore. We had like crab chips. If you're from Baltimore, you know, we love crab. You know, we have burger cookies. People in Baltimore know about burger cookies. And then,
Wait, what is a burger cookie? Because
you know
I
what a burger cookie is?
like
You never had a burger cookie?
no.
So it's like, oh yeah, so you went to school at Morgan. So it's like this cookie that's made with a whole bunch of chocolate, like fudge, that's on top of it, right? So it's this burger cookie that people know, it's like a shortbread cookie with a lot of fudge on it, and it's just like people love it in Baltimore. So it is a burger cookie. BERGER. Yeah, a burger cookie. Yeah. So I've eaten some burger cookies.
All right. Go ahead.
I don't know, but there's some calories, and you know we were watching our weight too. So
yeah, I have somebody in the background. You know, whatever. I'm gonna get one cookie and I'm gonna
it's two in there. You can share the other one with the person said,
exactly.
Sharing is caring, right? So they won't be saying it afterwards. So I have to get you some burger cookies.
Exactly.
Yes, and we had a shirt in there that said Baltimore Votes. We partnered with Baltimore Votes in Baltimore. You know, like the ditties, we had like I voted signs. I have these signs here. These are like some selfie signs. Like we gave away to voters so they could take pictures. I had a Black Girls Vote sign in it. And just these things that excite people around the election, because we knew that people couldn't go out and do voting as they traditionally had done it before. And, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, people needed some energy, some excitement. We had balloons in there, blowhorns, and it was like a really fun and festive thing. So we had Huge success in Baltimore with Party at the Mailbox. And we even did, an evaluation on it, seeing those individuals who got the boxes versus didn't get the boxes, voted at a higher rate. And so that was like really, really cool for me, just to be on the other side of hearing about, different, evaluations that are taking place. And we were able to say, hey, we had an impact in Baltimore. And so going to the general election, we wanted to have, a greater impact. So Black Girls Vote, we took the Party at the Mailbox initiative with the organization called National Conference on Citizenship. And they are our fiscal sponsor for Party at the Mailbox because, it's a very costly campaign to execute. And we're going into those cities that, we saw a decrease in voter turnout amongst African Americans, particularly in 2016. And so we're in Detroit, we're in Philadelphia, and we just want to have an impact. But more importantly, we want people to not just get a box, we call it an experience, right? So you're getting this box, we're going to do an election night visual party, and then we're going to get out there vote ballot before. And we have like the top DJs. DJ Quicksilver from Baltimore will be a DJ. We're going to get a top DJ in Detroit, a top DJ in Philly, and there's some bantering going back and forth, like Baltimore stand up, Philly, like Philly stand up, and just trying to create some excitement around voting. But again, yeah, and again, we're sending you an experience. And my folks in Detroit, we have this box that has like Better Made chips in it, which is really popular. And Detroit and Faygo Pop and these cute candies, and Detroit versus Everybody is our partner. In Detroit and Philadelphia, we're working with an organization called She Can Win. We have tasty cakes in a box and peanut chews. It's like a really fun box with t-shirts and all these. It's a customized box that I designed myself, and I take so much pride in it. But
you have boxes with it right there with you.
It was so crazy. I was like, let me get a box, but I do, but it's not pretty yet. I can't. It's not pretty. It's not like done. But I have. Okay, I can show you. So here's one.
Okay.
So this is like Philly. You can't really see. So this is Philly. It's like it's red, and everything's like it says here. You see here, it has like tasty cakes in it, chips, T-shirt, like signs in it for here, like Philly. Here, like it says, I love Philly. So this is some information. Like I said, I love Philly, so I vote. So this is Philly signs in there. Here are the peanut chews. We have like signs that say I voted. So things like that to give people balloons that say Philly votes. You can blow them up. So it's a really cool box. Again, we have our tasty cakes.
You're not packing all the boxes.
No, not me. God, no. So we have folks in Philly that's doing it now, and folks who someone called me. So people who have requested their boxes, they're going to start going out tomorrow in Philadelphia and Detroit. So they're going to start going out very soon. And people who get the box. Under Armour just came in and gave us masks for the boxes. So shout out to Under Armour. They're doing amazing work in supporting the campaign. So we have masks that are going inside of the boxes, because if you are voting, if you're voting in person and or home, we want you to have an experience, and we want you to be safe. So for those folks that in Philly and Detroit, please request your boxes. Please.
I will say, I think that is very, very important. But what I also learned today, yes, we want to make sure that everyone is safe and they're wearing masks. But if for whatever reason you don't have a mask when you get to the polls, they should have masks for you, one. And two, they cannot deny you the right to vote, even if you have a mask.
Yeah.
And so I found that kind of interesting in the middle of a global pandemic, that but they said, no, you cannot deny someone the right to vote, even if they don't have their mask. So I'm just saying that because sometimes we get so like, oh my God, I forgot my mask, or in the car, oh my gosh. Yeah. So get a box from you, a Party at the Mailbox.
Yeah.
There will be a mask.
There will be a mask. Yeah.
From you get to the polls and there is no mask, you can still vote.
Yeah.
So I learned so much today, so I like to share all my knowledge. So it's what's up.
Look, and that's what it is. Like, and I think so many times people get so caught up in like policy, like it's this big challenging thing, but it's really so simple, right? And so what you're saying, like you can wear a mask, that's policy, right? In some cases, they're like, you cannot wear a mask. That's another form of policy. And so when we start talking about the policies that are put in place, which are rules/laws, that's when we start talking about how it can impact our community and the importance of that. So no, you're absolutely right. Like wearing a mask and not wearing a mask. That's so critical for people to know, because people will turn you around. Like, people online may fuss at you now. That's totally different. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
But you can still vote. So just know that. And so when I was reading some of the information on just the work that you're doing at Black Girls Vote, it said that you have a collegiate ambassador program.
Yeah.
Let's hear about that. And is it to be an ambassador right now?
Yeah, so look, so you went to Morgan State University, right? And so you know about the Bears, and that's where our first collegiate chapter started, was at Morgan State University. And it goes to show that young women, particularly these young Black girls, are not playing. And I say that because we were, doing voter registration events, we're out in the community doing events, and some of the young ladies were like, Miss Nike, we want a Black Girls Vote chapter at Morgan State University. And I was like, I don't know if we're ready yet. Sometimes great is the enemy of good. We want things to be so perfect before we do it and launch it. And I was like, all right, well, y'all can start. Let's see what comes about it. And these girls start getting the executive board together, all these things. And next thing you know, I signed over the documentation, gave them, insurance and all that great stuff. And they got approved for a chapter. And ever since then, it's just been like the desire to have these Black Girls Vote chapters across the country has been like amazing. Look, somebody just said MSU. Absolutely. Like, these young girls are fired up and they're fearless. And so for us with Black Girls Vote, we want to expand that. And just like being in a sorority and or your NAACPs, I tell people there are women who didn't go to college who can run circles around women who have PhDs, right? But unlike sororities, you must have a college degree. You must be this, you must that. And so that's not the culture that we're creating in Black Girls Vote as a whole. But for those individuals who are, at your college campuses and you want, that sisterhood and that bond, then they're getting chapters. We have the inaugural one is at Morgan State University. We have one at American University, North Carolina A&T, and then Howard University. They're having interviews today for the executive board. So it's growing, but to my point, I can't keep up. And so again, our goal is with additional funding, we'll be able to expand to at least 20 collegiate chapters by next year. And it's creating, an ecosystem of young Black girls who we are training and teaching them about politics and about policy. But more importantly, we want to create a portal of internships. When we think about just access to just different resources within our community, it starts with internships. I personally did not have an internship in college at all. Not even high school. It wasn't even something that was ingrained in me or told. I was just, every summer I'm coming home, working my job. But the importance of internships and how it, I look at my friends who had internships and how they were able to grow within that organization or other organizations because they had that experience. My girlfriend interned with the federal government. She's still there to this day, right? Because she got access to that. And so I want to create that space for young girls who are interested in working in politics or government or anything like that. And everything's tied to government and policy. Every single thing that we do. And
right. To expand just to HBCUs specifically, or just any college where young Black women are who want to, vote and learn about the process? And are you looking maybe high schools where you can educate girls before they even can vote? I mean, you can still register people to vote even if you're not 18 and can vote. Have you thought about that as well? Because as you've been talking about this, like, I have some ideas around some of the we do where there's partnership and collaboration and building out for the young girls specifically. Because I know, like, I didn't know anything about the voting process until it was time for me to vote, which is when in which I got to Morgan State University. But I didn't know prior to that. Now, if I did, I would have been able to inform all of my other friends at that age, and then potentially more people would have been voting, especially young Black, and or getting your families or encouraging your families who were older and had maybe their rights to vote. So what do you think about that?
No, you're absolutely right? When people when you vote early, it becomes like, a part of you, right? I have to vote. I've been voting since I was 18 years old, or since, it was my first time eligible to vote. And so for us, we are not just focused on, HBCUs. American University isn't an HBCU. I personally did not go to an HBCU, though I wish I had gone to an HBCU, but I know my path's already laid out. And so, no, it's not focused on just solely HBCUs. We just want where there are Black girls on these college campuses who are looking for something and want to get resources and want to educate their community. Like to your point, going back to those high schools, our girls at Morgan State University, they're going to the high schools in the community and registering them and talking to them about voting. And eventually we will grow to our high school ambassador initiative. But this is hard work, Topeka. And like building these organizations, and everyone has an idea, right? Everyone has an idea and suggestion on how things should go. But when you're looking at funding and priorities and things like that, you're trying to figure it all out. And so you think about your 5-year plan and then your 10-year plan, but absolutely, and then it becomes to the point where I found myself like not necessarily having a breakdown, but kind of like it just became so much, right? So much like, okay, I can't do all of this by myself, and then having to get resources and funding so I can get a team and build a team, because people are calling you. So many people call my phone because they are used to having access to me, but I can't do that anymore. It's so demanding, it's so much priority, and then you feel bad. I'm the person that the nice person, right? Like, I just can't. And so, yes, absolutely. High school chapters, we want it. Now, I can't say it's going to be next year. So people say, I saw you in Topeka say you're going to get high school chapters. And my daughter, she wants a chapter. And if I don't respond, they'll be mad at me. Like the Black girls both didn't respond. That's what happens, right? So, yes, high school chapters eventually. Whenever you're ready to start it, Topeka, you can help us launch it.
I'm here for it. And, I just like, not to shift from the conversation.
We can shift it. This is us talking, right?
Yes, look, I see Brittany saying people don't understand how you can't be accessible anymore. And it is so true because like people get so mad at me. But it's like, hey, look, I'm going to connect you to my assistant or I'm going to. And I'm like, listen, it's not about the fact that I don't love you, but if you wait for me to try to talk to you, we're not going to talk at all. You might want to go through this other route, especially if you want to get something done, right?
Yeah.
So, it's like, it's interesting, one, the unrealistic expectations that people have on you. But two, the fact that when you are out here doing real work, and I'm not saying everybody does real work, or whatever that is relative, right? But you're actually with people every day, talking to people every day, and then also raise resources for your organization, because we also know, which is a whole nother conversation, that Black women, get less funding than anyone else. So it's like you're always grinding, always moving, and you don't even have any time to do things for yourself. And so that's why, I think just this initiative around Black girls voting, it not only helps us to understand, one, the things that we want to have within our communities, but how do we also get the power back as Black women to be able to continue to build and grow and have resources, not only for ourselves, but also to build out our communities. So, yeah.
No, look, Topeka, I totally get it. And I blame myself for some of it by being accessible sometimes to a lot of people because, and that's a part of growth when you're growing an organization. Before when, it was just Nike, I have this idea, call me, I want to do this, I want to do everything. But then as you begin to grow, I get so many emails a day, I'm sure like yourself, hundreds of emails. And then text or call, and if you don't respond, people take it personally. Like, I promise. And people who, before you could respond immediately. Now you just can't. There's so many things happening. So I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And people have to understand, I didn't get it at first. I didn't get it until I was in the position. Like, I get it, right? When it's not personal, it is not personal. And I used to take things so personal. But to piggyback on what you just said about bringing some of that power back, I tell people voting, when I talk about Black girls vote, it's about elections and economics, period. Those are the two things. Like the elections, if we don't have anything, particularly as Black women, we have our vote and we have our voting block. And people are often dependent on this voting block to get into office. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I do believe is in mutually beneficial relationships. And it's nothing wrong with a mutually beneficial relationship. And people think of it like it's a bad thing. No, it's not. And saying, I'm going to do this for you. What are you going to do for me? And it's not anything illegal. I'm not saying anything like that. But particularly when it comes to policy and agendas, right? And so there's so much funding that can come into our communities. As you mentioned, Black women, we're the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, but many of us are solopreneurs. Meaning you don't have a staff, you don't have a team of people, so you're up. Now, I don't begin responding to emails until 9 o'clock at night, right? And so you don't have, the staff and the team. You don't have access to the capital that some people can get. They can walk in and get, a loan where we can't. And so all that impacts your entire business. It impacts the trajectory of your life and as well as your children. So those are some of the things you want to be able to pass down. So could the government and say, we want to create a program specifically for Black women and to support them in their efforts? Absolutely. But we have to demand it. And so that's why I start having those conversations around it and saying, look, we don't have anything against you, but we know what we want for our community because other people do it. And once we start demanding some of those things and resources, so many people get paid in wealth off of the government. Let's be very clear. Donald Trump's father got wealthy off of the government, right? And this is government contracts and access to the capital. And so there are so many people here who have ideas and businesses. For me, Black Girls Vote was an idea, a concept. And like you said, like I have to go through so many hoops to get funding. Where some people can come up with an idea like they're $1 million just like that. Like, are you kidding me? Right. But our journey is totally different. And so I'm saying that nah, something got to give, right? And so with that being said, demand something in exchange for your vote. Not saying we're not going to vote, but we're just saying, all right, let's cut a deal. And people do it all the time. We're great negotiators. We just have to negotiate a little bit more.
No, but I also think that, I mean, you make some incredible points, but and to the voting piece, right? Yes, we have Black girls vote, but also we have to run for office, right? Because
Yeah.
this is how we build our power. If we're running for office within our own districts, within our communities, and the things that we care about are now on the top of the agenda, and we are voting for us to be in, collectively, we can have the things that we need. We may not have to go through the things that we go through so much and so often. You know, we will have the resources, the respect, you know, and it's everything we need to build and transform not only ourselves and our lives, but again, our children and our children's children.
Yeah.
You know, important when you think about right now, when you're looking at all of the racial justice work that all, you know, these groups are wanting to go into, because now everyone is having this epiphany moment that racism is, you know, the root of all evil and everything in the country. That's still, with those things being said, we are still being left out of the conversation. There's still not, those resources are still not going to us. Black women, women who are doing, you know, people work, direct service work, even some people who are doing policy work. And so I think, again, if we continue to mobilize and organize within our community, we teach the young kids the things that they need to do in order for us to have a stronger community, then, you know, we can have all the things we want, which is ending poverty, bringing more economic justice, and building wealth within the community.
No, Topeka, you're absolutely right. You know, you get it. And, you know, so many people don't get it. And that's okay if you don't get it, but be willing to have the conversation and listen and talk about it. Because ultimately, you know, we're fighting for things that, you know, we deserve. We ultimately deserve those things. It's not like someone's giving us a handout, right? And so many times, like, you want this. Other people are getting resources to help build their communities. Why can't we get the same? And as you mentioned, running for office is so critical because when you think about it, look at the staff, right? So as a Black woman, my staff primarily is Black people, not all, but you know, you're going to hire people who look like you, who are in your community. So you're giving them access, you're giving them resources, you're creating something for them, and exposure, which we know is so critical. And when we look at different staffers and different people in office, looking at their staff members, what does that look like? And all of those jobs matter when you're taking care of your family, right? And we have Black women, particularly 84% of them are either breadwinners or co-breadwinners. So that impacts your entire family, the access, the resources, the things that you can provide for your family, for your children, for your cousins. You know, when I lost my job, as I told you, 2015, I cried. You know, I was just like, you know, people come to me for help. You know, if I need to help anyone in my family, I will. So like, how am I going to help them? You know, that's what I'm thinking about. I don't have any children, and I'm like, but I got to help them. So it added an extra burden on me because I'm not even thinking about myself. I'm thinking about other people that I got to help. And so when we have these positions, and I lost my job, particularly because I was the person who ran for office, lost, and that's politics. And then when we think about government and so many things that people have access to these resources, we need to make sure that Black women are getting those resources, because we know that once we get them, we're going to give them to our husbands, our fathers, our brothers, and our sons. And particularly, you know, those individuals who have been incarcerated before, they can't get some of these loans, right? They can't get access to these capitals. So what does that mean? As Black women, we got to start the businesses and hire our brothers, our sons, and pass it on to them. And so that's what other people do within their community. And so once we get it, it's like, it's not rocket science, but it's more so about collaboration and not competition. And I think that's where we get it mixed up. And that's it. Like, when I first met you, Topeka, I said, oh no, we're gonna do some great things together. I don't know what it is, sis, but no, like, it's just so many opportunities out here. But you know, we're fighting over crumbs when, you know, the bag is so much bigger. It's so much bigger. So much bigger.
We talked about that too. So you know, everything is in God's time and the right season. And I think that, you know, when you are building and structuring and understanding it is about collaboration, then we have more power together. You know, we don't when we keep doing things in silos. And the more I think women, Black women specifically, understand the power that we possess, and we collectively come together, despite the differences or indifferences may be, we will rule the world. And so, you know, for me, I think my last question for you is, well, actually I have two. What advice do you have for people who are looking to activate their communities and people support the work of Black Girls Vote?
So activating your community, I would definitely say just start within yourself, right? And what does that look like? You know, oftentimes we, say that people only come into our community, 4 years later when they want our vote. And so, look within and say, how many times have I emailed my elected officials, right? How many times have I picked up the phone and called them or, complain about something or tell them about something? And oftentimes it's a very limited amount of times. And so it's almost like people are only going to respond unless you give them something to respond to and putting the pressure on them. And so you're absolutely right. Sometimes you do get that feedback, meaning they only come into your community every 4 years. But what are you doing in between those 4 years and holding them accountable? So just start there. And by you starting to get engaged and educated, then you can educate other people about, at the end of the day, these elected officials work for us, right? And so they work for us. And I tell people they get a 4-year probationary period in some cases. In Congress, it's 2. And with any job, you hire someone, and after their time, they're on probation. If you don't like them, then you replace them. And same thing with elected officials. You can replace them by electing someone else. So keep that mindset, one, that people work for you and you doing the little things. And that's how you'll start to get educated. And once you become more comfortable, you'll start talking to other people and teaching them. And once you're teaching them and you're learning, you become more and more involved in it. But don't be intimidated by it. Please don't be intimidated by it. It's the little things that matter. And I would say supporting Black Girls Vote, just follow us on social media. Of course, if you want to donate to us, please do. We will be expanding to chapters across the country very, very soon, next year. And so we're just excited about building some momentum and building some amazing women who just support the effort. There are so many amazing dope Black girls, as I would say, across the country who just want to be a part of the movement. And again, it's not about being about any political party. We're nonpartisan. We just want resources to come back to our community so that we get the access that we deserve.
Well, you heard it. Black vote.
Yes, Black Girls Vote.
Make sure you follow Nike. What's your IG live and all your stuff?
My Instagram is Nykidra, Nykidra. And yep, and I'll be on the readout tonight with Joyanne Reed talking about Black Girls Vote and part of the mailbox. I'll give you a shout out to people. I got a few on my list, and just the work you're doing, right? And just shout you out because people don't understand this is some real work here, and it's not always pretty. It's not always pretty, and people see the glitz and the glam. They see you on the covers, they see you in the magazines, they see the interviews, but they don't know what's really going on behind the scenes.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's not pretty, and so yeah, it's a journey.
It is. But I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today, to educate and share. Understand again, the power of Black women.
Yes.
Matter. We matter. Our community matters, and collaboration between us matters.
Yep.
I thank you. I look forward to seeing you. I know that you're in Brooklyn now. I might be over there.
Come holler at me. Come hang out. We gotta hang out.
All right.
Well, thank you, Topeka. I'm so proud of you and all the work that you're doing. Yes. And for those folks who came from Black Girls Vote page, please follow Topeka Sam, the Ladies of Hope Ministries. If you have not heard about her, Google her. That's how people just Google the sister, right? You'll get some amazing information about her and just follow her. She's a dope.
Oh, I love you.
Love you more. All right. See you, Topeka. Thank you.